Okay, let's get right into this deep dive.
Hmm.
We're unpacking a collection of insights today, specifically from the 8th issue of the Thinking in Public biweekly newsletter curated by Alperen.
Yeah, think of it as a curated stream of fascinating finds across tech and business.
And we've sort of distilled it down for you.
That's the goal. We've pulled out what we think are the most interesting, most useful pieces from this stack of source material. Our aim is to really highlight the core ideas, maybe the surprising bits, and what they could mean for you.
And it looks like a pretty varied landscape today. We're talking about connecting apps directly to AI. A new way to create UIs using just text, which sounds wild.
It does, yeah.
Tools for simpler automation, making AI voices sound, much more human.
Big one.
And then some really fundamental stuff on building trust in business. Often overlooked, maybe.
Definitely. It's a mix that touches on efficiency, creation, communication, and strategy, pulling threads from different areas, trying to give you a picture of some interesting developments happening right now.
Wonderful. So let's kick things off with something that feels super relevant. Making AI interact directly with our other apps.
Yeah, this is moving fast.
The sources mention how this space is evolving, noting things like Anthropic's approach before, and now OpenAI is pushing this way too.
Absolutely. The big idea here is moving AI from just, answering questions or writing text to actually doing things. Sending emails, updating your CRM, scheduling meetings.
Right. And OpenAI has official ways to do this in ChatGPT now.
They do.
I heard about the custom connectors feature. So could I connect, say, my calendar or Trello?
You can, but, and this is what the sources point out, the official custom connections feature, the one in ChatGPT settings, it has some limitations currently.
Oh.
If you want to connect your own custom apps, it's mostly for team, enterprise, or edu plans right now. Plus users. You can connect some pre-made popular ones like Google Calendar, Gmail, maybe HubSpot, but it's a specific list they provide.
So if I'm on a plus plan or maybe even the free tier, and I want to connect something less common, that built-in option might not work yet.
Exactly. But this is where the sources offer a really interesting alternative. It seems more broadly applicable right now.
Okay.
You can get much wider connectivity using Zapier's MCP implementation, their Model Context Protocol, alongside the OpenAI API.
Zapier. Okay, that makes sense. Using an automation tool to bridge the gap. How does that work? Is it complicated?
Actually, the sources lay it out as pretty manageable. The core concept is you use Zapier to tell the AI what actions it can take in your apps.
Okay.
And then you link that setup to OpenAI so the AI can see those actions and, trigger them.
All right, walk me through that. What are the steps?
Okay, first step. In Zapier, you create something called an MCP server. You're basically saying, I want to build a bridge for an AI model, and you specify it's for an OpenAI model.
So Zapier is like the translator between the AI and my apps.
Precisely. Then, still in Zapier, you pick the specific actions you want the AI to be able to do. This is where you get granular, like create a new row in my Airtable, or post a message to the Slack channel, add event to Google Calendar. You select each capability you want to grant. Examples mentioned were Zoom, Slack, Notion, Airtable, Jira. Lots of options.
Got it. So Zapier now knows the approved actions. What's next?
Zapier gives you a special API key for that MCP server. Think of it like a secure password that lets OpenAI talk only to the list of actions you just defined.
Okay, key in hand, now connected to OpenAI.
Right. You head over to the OpenAI platform, platform.openai.com. Now, this uses their API, which is separate from your ChatGPT subscription.
So it uses API credits. You need a payment method set up.
Exactly. API usage isn't free, so you need billing set up on your OpenAI account for this bit, even if you use the free web ChatGPT usually.
Yeah, makes sense. Where on the platform do you do the connecting?
The sources point to the playground area. It's like a workbench for using the API directly. In the playground, under prompts, you select the responses API. Then there's a section for adding tools the AI can use.
And that's where Zapier fits in.
Yep. You add a new tool, say it's a Zapier MCP server, and paste in that API key you got from Zapier.
So OpenAI can now see the actions I allowed in Zapier?
Exactly. The list appears. You then just select which of those Zapier actions you want this specific AI setup in the playground to be able to use. Save it, and you're basically done with setup.
Okay, wow. So after all that, what's it like to use it?
This is the cool part. You use the chat interface in the OpenAI playground, the one where you've enabled these tools, and you just ask it things in plain English, like schedule a Zoom call with Sarah for Friday at 10 a.m. about the launch plan, or add research Zapier alternatives to my main Notion task list.
and the AI figures it out.
Yeah, OpenAI understands the request involves an action. It sees Zapier is an available tool with a relevant action like create Zoom meeting or create Notion database item. It then sends the necessary details to Zapier, and Zapier executes the task in your Zoom or Notion account.
Wow, so the AI becomes this command center for your digital tools. That really changes how you interact with it, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's not just about getting information from the AI anymore. It's about getting the AI to do things for you across your workflow.
It goes from knowledge engine to action engine.
Totally. It makes you think differently. What kinds of tasks, could you automate just by asking the AI? The possibilities are kind of mind-bending.
It really makes you think. Okay, shifting gears. From controlling apps to creating visuals, specifically UIs.
Right.
The sources highlighted a new tool from Google called Stitch, and it does something pretty unexpected. Designs web or mobile UIs using only text.
Sounds almost like science fiction, doesn't it? You describe the interface in words, and Stitch generates visual mock-ups.
So I could type, I need a login screen, put a logo at the top, email field, password field, and a big green go button below.
Exactly like that. You type it, Stitch gives you maybe a few different visual interpretations of that screen. Then you can tweak them with simple commands, change colors, move things around a bit.
That sounds incredibly fast for just getting ideas out. What's the main benefit?
Speed and accessibility, mostly. It really lowers the barrier for prototyping. You don't need to be a Figma wizard or know any code to get a visual. Great for quick brainstorming, testing layouts.
Okay, so I got a design I like in Stitch. Can I actually use it, or is it just a picture?
You can definitely use it. Sources mentioned a couple of paths. First, you can copy-paste elements or the whole design into something like Figma for more detailed work.
Right, so it's a starting point for designers.
Yes, but maybe even more interesting, you can screenshot the Stitch design.
A screenshot?
Yeah, and then upload that screenshot to some of these AI website builder tools. The source said they tested this with tools like Lovable and Bolt.new, and those tools were able to look at the screenshot and actually build working websites from it.
Get out. That's crazy. Design with text, screenshot it, another AI builds a site from the picture.
It's a wild workflow, right? It shows how these AI tools are starting to connect and build off each other. The source also mentioned finding a couple more AI site builders, Create.xyz and Cosmic.new, adding to that list with Lovable, Bolt.new, and Replit.
So Stitch is like this super fast text-first way to get the initial visual concept down.
Exactly. Its value is that immediate, low-friction visualization, just using words. Idea to mock up in minutes.
Speaking of making things simpler, let's circle back to automation, but with a twist. Making it easy for others to use.
Ah, yes, Gumloop came up again.
We touched on it before, known for its simple interface. But the focus here was on adding a UI, a user interface, to your automations.
Yeah, this is a neat feature. It's about sharing. Instead of building an automation only you can run, Gumloop lets you stick a simple web form on the front of it.
So I build the workflow logic, but then someone else just gets a link to a form, fills it out, and boom, the automation runs.
Precisely. Super useful for standardizing things or giving tools to non-technical folks.
Yeah.
You build the engine, they just use the dashboard, basically. Makes your automation a reusable tool.
That sounds really practical.
Yeah.
Was there an example? The source mentioned a template.
Yeah, a good one they detailed was Gumloop's ready-made pitch deck analysis workflow. Using it requires zero tech knowledge.
How does that work?
You literally just upload your pitch deck file through the form, like attaching a file to an email. Then you fill in a few fields to guide the analysis.
Like what kind of fields?
Things like what type of analysis do you want, market strategy focus, financials, what specific areas of the deck should it pay attention to, and who's the target audience for the pitch.
And Gumloop just does the analysis based on that.
Exactly. Takes the deck, takes your form inputs, uses AI and maybe some web scraping, analyzes it based on your criteria, and then emails you the results.
Very handy. And the source said it worked pretty well. Quick.
They did, yeah. Seems like a solid example of putting a simple UI on a complex AI task to make it accessible. And apparently Gumloop has other templates like this too.
So the key takeaway for Gumloop here is less about building the automation, more about easily sharing it through a simple interface.
Yeah, distributing the power of automation without needing everyone to be an expert.
Okay, let's shift to AI voices. We know the tools, That's been the tricky part.
It's definitely the next frontier, and the sources point out prompting for speech is different than for text or images. The usual tricks don't quite work for adding those subtle human touches.
What kind of subtle touches make the biggest difference?
Things like natural pauses, not just between sentences, but within them. Filler words we all use, like or well, and crucially, emotional nuance sounding excited or thoughtful or skeptical.
Right. And is there, like, one standard way to tell these tools sound sarcastic here?
That's the problem. Not really. The source emphasized there's no universal method. Each tool has its own way, its own commands or syntax for adding pauses or emotions. You kind of have to check the guides for each one.
So tool-specific instructions. But the sources mentioned a big step forward with ElevenLabs.
Yes, they seemed quite excited about ElevenLabs' new V3 model. Described it as, I think, the most expressive text-to-speech model yet, a big jump in naturalness.
What makes V3 so much better? What's the key thing?
The big change is much finer control using special tags inside the text you provide. They don't get spoken, but they tell the AI how to say that part.
Tags inside the text, like what?
The sources gave some cool examples. Tags for emotions or actions. Laughs, whispers, sighs, sarcastic, curious. Even things like crying.
Whoa. So I could write, like, he leaned in and said, whispers, the secret is.
Exactly. You weave them right in. They also mentioned tags for sound effects the voice might make, like swallows or clears throat, or even background effects like applause. And some unique ones, like specifying an accent, strong Scottish accent, or even sings or woo.
That opens up a ton of creative options. How do you actually use V3 in these tags?
Simple enough. Log into ElevenLabs, go to text-to-speech, just select the V3 model.
What if I'm not sure which tags to use or where?
They mentioned a helpful feature for that. A V3 Enhance Alpha button. You put your text in, click it, and it suggests tags for you. Pauses, emphasis, vocalizations. You can then tweak suggestions.
That sounds incredibly useful for learning it. It feels like these more natural voices could really change things. How do you see these more expressive AI voices being used, creatively or practically?
Oh, way beyond just reading text aloud. Think more engaging audiobooks, dynamic podcast production, maybe creating unique character voices for games or animation instantly, or even more empathetic interfaces for accessibility. That naturalness just makes the interaction feel richer, you know?
Absolutely. Okay, final topic. Let's pivot to business strategy fundamentals. The sources pulled some really powerful ideas from Marcus Sheridan's book, Endless Customers. It tackles that feeling of doing all the marketing stuff, working hard, but not seeing the growth you expect.
Yeah, this hits home for a lot of people, I think. The book's main argument is maybe the problem isn't how you're marketing, but what you're choosing to talk about. Or maybe what you're not talking about.
So not the execution, but the subject matter.
Exactly. The core idea is trust. People need to trust you before they buy, especially now. And trust, the book argues, isn't built by being perfect. It's built by being open and answering the hard questions most businesses try to dodge.
Dodging questions, like price or problems.
Precisely. The book calls it ostrich marketing. You know, burying your head in the sand about things like cost, potential downsides, how you compare to others, or sharing truly unfiltered reviews.
So the argument is, make trust the absolute center of your digital content and sales approach.
That's the foundation. And it lays out 4 key habits businesses need to adopt to build that trust consistently.
Okay, let's hear them. What's the first habit against ostrich marketing?
First, talk openly about the hard stuff. The book identifies the big 5 topics people are already searching for when they're serious about buying. That's price and value, potential problems or negatives, comparisons with competitors, real reviews, and best of lists in your category.
So instead of avoiding the price question, you create content specifically addressing it. Same for comparisons.
Exactly. You meet buyers where they are, deep in their research, by giving them the honest info they need. That builds credibility like nothing else. You become the trusted resource.
Makes sense. What's habit number 2?
Show behind the scenes. People want to know how things work, how pricing is structured, and who they're dealing with. The book suggests selling 7 types of videos, explaining pricing, FAQs, who it's really for and not for, landing page explainers, customer stories, team bios, and proof points.
Video again, it feels more authentic, doesn't it? And yeah, easier to make now.
Much easier. It makes things concrete.
Okay, third habit.
Let people explore on their own. Give them tools to evaluate options before they even talk to sales. Things like interactive price calculators on your site, detailed comparison tables, checklists to help them figure out their needs.
Self-service tools.
Yeah.
And sales teams should use these too.
Definitely. The book says sales should proactively share these tools. It speeds things up because the buyer feels informed and empowered in their research.
Right. And the last habit, number 4.
Show the human side. In this automated world, real human connection stands out. Put actual team faces on your website and content. Use your real voices in videos, not just AI or stock audio. Share genuine stories, maybe even have customers share theirs directly.
Transparency, information, empowerment, and humanity.
Yeah.
And these aren't just like one-off campaigns.
No, definitely not. The book stresses these have to be daily practices, part of the company culture. The whole endless customer system involves 5 parts to keep it going. Creating that big 5 content, building a buyer-focused website, having a teaching mindset in sales, using tech like CRM and AI smartly to support this, and building a team culture of trust and honesty.
So trust isn't an accident. It's intentionally built through these ongoing actions.
Absolutely. It's earned. And there's a warning, too. Companies stagnate when they feel safe. You need regular talks about the tough stuff, keep content fresh based on real questions, stay close to customers.
The bottom line seems to be that this kind of radical openness builds the brand and drives growth way more than hiding the difficult topics. Visibility isn't enough. You need that trust.
People buy from people and businesses they trust. It sounds simple, but consistently doing it is the hard part.
That's a powerful thought. Thinking about ostrich marketing, where might you listening be unintentionally avoiding something your audience really wants to know?
It's a good question to ask. What's that uncomfortable topic you tend to sidestep?
Right. Okay, let's quickly recap what we covered in this deep dive. We looked at connecting AI to tons of apps, using Zapier and the OpenAI API as a powerful alternative to built-in connectors. We explored Google Stitch for designing UIs with just text, and how those can feed into AI website builders.
Yeah, that was cool.
We got into making AI voices way more natural with ElevenLabs V3's tagging system.
Adding that human touch.
We saw how Gumloop makes automation shareable with simple UIs. And finally, those core lessons from endless customers on building trust through radical honesty and openness.
It's a diverse set of tools and ideas, but they all point towards improving how we work, create, communicate, and connect online.
Absolutely. And to leave you with that final thought, building on endless customers. Is your content really answering the tough questions your audience needs answered to trust you? Or just the easy ones you like talking about? What's one hard question from that big 5 list you could maybe tackle openly this week?